I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will the clerk please read the statement?
The meeting of the Township Council for Monday, November 27th, 2017. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 5th, 2017, and was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Roll call.
Councilmember Tadic.
Here.
Councilmember Ohm.
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Here.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Here.
Councilmember-elect Allberger.
Here.
Councilmember-elect Van Tassel.
Here.
Council President Murphy.
Here. Please rise to salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item we have on the agenda this evening is a proclamation for Animal Control Officer Malero, who could not be here this evening, but he requested we read this in his absence. Would Councilmember Ohms please read the proclamation?
Whereas Thomas Malero has been a proud and dedicated employee for Vernon Township for 25 years. Whereas Tom joined the Township of Vernon on October 26, 1992, as an animal control officer and retired after 25 years of service on November 1, 2017. Whereas those who have had the pleasure of working with Tom sincerely appreciated his dedication and the devotion he has displayed in his work caring for the animals of Vernon Township. Now therefore be it proclaimed on behalf of the Vernon Township Council and community, I, Mayor Harry Shortway, hereby extends my sincerest gratitude and appreciation to Thomas Malero for his distinguished public service to the township and dedication to the care and well-being of the animals of our community. Presented this 27th day of November, 2017. Signed by Harry Shortway, Mayor, and Jean Murphy, Council President.
Thank you. Next, before we go into public comment, I wanted to ask Michelle Downtain, the Director of Recreation and Community Affairs, if she could step forward on this with Kelly Weller.
Good evening, everyone. On Thanksgiving Day, we held a turkey trot in Vernon, the first one ever, and it was a huge success. Kelly organized most of it and did the lead work behind making this happen, and she has a few things to say, a few people to thank. But the proceeds of this event, the whole purpose of it was to help our Harvest House, which is not in Vernon, but it was started by Vernon students a long time ago, and it is in dire needs of funds. So the Board of Recreation, along with the Vernon Running Club and many, many sponsors and donators and volunteers, put this together, and our total registrants was 171 runners who came out Thanksgiving morning, mostly families from within our own community, so it was a great thing to be part of.
I had a little speech. Michelle stole some of my thunder on it, but that's okay. So my name is Kelly Weller, for those of you that don't know me. So I'm here tonight to speak about our inaugural 5K turkey trot that took place this past Thanksgiving morning. The Rec Committee planned for many months for this event, and I wanted to share with you what an amazing event it was. As Michelle said, we had over 125 pre-registered runners. And then another 50 came out that day to register. Many were families and individuals who had never even run a 5K before, and they came out to be part of this great new tradition that we're hoping will continue here in Vernon. There were so many people who helped make this event happen, so I wanted to take a moment to personally thank them. The Vernon Police Department, who was there to keep our runners safe and direct traffic, the Vernon Ambulance Squad, who also were present in case of an emergency, Michelle Downtain, who was there to serve as our liaison between the Rec Committee, the police, as well as the PAL. We could not have done this without you, so thank you. Our local sponsors who donated over $1,000 to the event. Martin O'Donnell, who donated his time to DJ the event. Martin's only been living in this town for 3 weeks, and he committed to giving up his time with his family on Thanksgiving morning to do this event at no cost, which was wonderful. Not only did we raise $3,011.50 to go to the Harvest House, we also collected canned goods the day of the event to donate as well. This far exceeds what we had originally hoped to collect, and I'm confident that this event will only continue to grow from here. In addition to those I thanked earlier, I also want to thank Mayor Harry Shortway for all of his support during the planning, the amazing members of our Vernon Running Club, and all of the other people who came out to support the event. It really was wonderful to see the town come together, and I'm looking forward to see this race grow and be bigger and better each year.
So here's the check for you to present to the Harvest House, since it's your baby.
Yes.
$3,011.50.
Thank
Great
you.
group of people with a lot of energy, doing a lot of good things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to open to public comments?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone that would like to address the council? Please state your name and the town you're from.
Anthony Horler from Berry Lakes. First, I have 2 items. One is a thank you. I was here 2 weeks ago to address a property issue, and after at least 6 years of going backwards and forwards, I came and talked to the right people because you gave me a response in 2 weeks. So, thank you. That's first part. I think I owe you a letter, so if I could actually hand you the letter.
Okay, thank you.
It was you requested.
Yes.
And the second part is from Berry Lakes. I'm part of the board of the Berry Lakes Lake Owners LCPOA, and we kind of found we have an issue in one of our bylaws. It's a little fuzzy on one of our bylaws when we have some residents that have a couple different opinions of the bylaws of what happens if there's road drainage in front and who's responsible. So we have, basically in our bylaws, it basically states only road and then property, but as we all know, there's a right-of-way in between. So I think he's gotten a response, one of the homeowners, that if it's a swale or it's a ditch, that would be the responsibility of the town. What we're looking for is if we could get that in writing, if that is the truth and that is what you guys would do in Vernon, because our bylaws are based off Vernon code. So we're following Vernon codes for our bylaws. So we'd just like to ask if we can have that in writing so that we can amend our bylaws to make sure that our own association is safe. So is that something that we could...
Well, that would be something that you've been in touch with administration?
Me personally, no.
Oh.
So that's why I'm...
No, you can forward that to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to step forward? Yeah.
Good evening, Joseph Clarizio, C-L-A-R-I-Z-I-O, resident of Vernon Township, 16 Winding Hill Road. I am here, first off, thank you, Council, President, Council, Mayor Shortway, for giving me this chance to speak. I'm here to ask for assistance with the zoning laws. The zoning laws in town are pretty cut and dry. In particular, I'm asking about recreational vehicles. I have a neighbor that has a 43-foot-long recreational vehicle they placed right on the property line. I asked the zoning officer to review it, and the one particular ordinance I'm asking about, it states any such recreational vehicle shall be located so as to meet yard and setback requirements applicable to accessory buildings, shall be stored in a rear or side yard. Also gives the zoning officer the opportunity to review and say if there is no suitable storage location in the rear or side yard. Zoning officer reviewed and stated that is her opinion, not whether to state whether it is suitable in the rear or side yard, but whether she wanted to bother my neighbors to relocate this trailer. Any review will show you that my neighbor has a 100-foot wide side yard setback to their house. There's ample room to move this trailer into their rear yard. It does not need to be placed within my view, which is obstructing a very good portion of my view and enjoyment of my property. So I'm asking if the council could please have the zoning officer review this and stay with strict black and white review of your zoning laws.
Will do.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Give me my card.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll send you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Is there anyone else that would like to step forward?
Good evening. Quick question. Scott Geisels, I'm president of Barry Lakes. I saw on the agenda also Resolution 17212, the cancellation of the grant for gypsy moth suppression. And just a question, I didn't read the background of this thing. Is this for cancellation of future suppression of gypsy moths for upcoming seasons, or
For this particular 2018.
was it something that did?
It was based upon the report that they did studying the area of Vernon and everything, that they did not find sufficient infestation to go forward with the program in Vernon this year as they had in the 2 previous years.
Okay. So make sure we don't have another case we had a few years ago where the whole mountain was
Infestated, yeah.
left.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll keep analyzing every year, and then they'll make the recommendation if we should treat or not. This year, they said you don't have to because of the prior 2 years that we treated.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to step forward? Seeing no one else, I have a motion to close to public.
Motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Next, we have the mayor's report.
Thank you. Vernon again earned a bronze certification from Sustainable New Jersey. Last Monday, SCARC delivered 100 meals and 100 desserts to Vernon Municipal Senior Citizens Center. I would like to publicly thank Mitch Morrison and many volunteers that delivered these dinners that we provided to our seniors, and some of the leftovers were brought over to the Methodist Church because they also have some indigent people over there, so we fed them also. I'd also like to publicly thank Officer Nick Papanen and the Sheriff's Labor Assistance Program, commonly known as SLAP, for clearing another section of trail for us. On November 19th, the Sheriff's SLAP program, alongside members of the GAC, worked to clear a section of trail about 0.3 of a mile from the lost path over here down to the PAL. The turkey trot we already spoke about, and I wish to thank Michelle and Kelly, members of the Vernon Recreation Club, and all the volunteers on such an awesome job to help those in need. So it was a lot of fun to be out there, and just seeing all the families and all those little runners, they were really cute. Last Saturday, we used part of the $2,000 grant from Sustainable New Jersey to continue our efforts to blaze a walking path from the PAL to Black Creek Drive. The path followed the MUA right-of-way. It is in generally where we hope to put a trail if we receive the grant. I also want to thank the Beautification Committee and the McAfee Volunteer Fire Department for the snowflake lights that now are being hung in our town center. As budgets provide, we hope to add more and more lights through the years. I think they really look nice, and it's something different that we haven't had in a while. So, Mrs. Murphy, I knew you were out there on Sunday, so thank you with doing this. The holiday season with the tree lighting will be this Friday at the Vernon Firehouse starting at 6:30 p.m. So all those festivities will be here right in the center of town at the Firehouse, 6:30. And these events are helping bring this community together. It's been a lot of fun to participate in these, and I hope others join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the minutes. Can I have a motion? May I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 23rd, 2017?
Motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember
Roll
Jadis?
call.
Yes?
Councilmember Ong?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes. Next, we have the consent agenda. Resolution 17209, Chapter 159, resolution requesting approval of revenue and appropriations, amending the 2017 budget as a revenue and appropriation of $12,265.89. This resolution authorizes the acceptance of the Drunk Driving Enforcement Fund grant from the New Jersey Department of Law. Resolution 17210, authorizing change order number 1 of contract for proposed improvements to Barry Drive North, Phase 1 line striping with Denville line painting. Resolution 17211, authorizing change order number 1 of the contract for proposed improvements to Maple Grange Road line striping with Denville line painting. This calls for an increase in the total contract by $77.70. Resolution 1712, cancellation of the New Jersey Department of Agriculture Gypsy Moth Suppression Grant receivable and appropriations balances. The Mass Egg Survey has been returned from the state, and the township will not have to spray next year. This resolution cancels the balance of the money receivable for this year of $201.56. Resolution 17213, resolution authorizing final approval for blocks, Block 134, Lot 17, 17.01, 17.02, and Block 182, Lot 12.01, 12.02, farmland preservation. This authorizes farmland preservation for Vernon Valley Farm. Resolution 17214, resolution of participation, a resolution approving participation with the State of New Jersey federal grant program administered by the Division of Criminal Justice, Department of Law and Public Safety. This authorizes the application for the Safe and Secure Grant for the Vernon Township Police Department. Resolution 17215, approving active volunteer firemen for membership in the New Jersey State Firemen's Association. This authorizes William B. Mackerly to join the New Jersey State Firemen's Association. Resolution 17216, authorizing lease contract with Pitney Bowes for postal machine utilizing NJPA contract 041917. The township's postal machine, which is approximately 12 years old, requires replacement. This authorizes a lease for a new postal machine. Resolution 17217, canceling emergency appropriation resolution 17184. Earlier this year, the township filed an emergency appropriation which was to be made up in next year's budget. Fortunately, the township has been able to transfer balances to cover the emergency, and therefore it is no longer necessary. This resolution cancels the appropriation. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 17209 to 17217?
With the exception of Resolution 17213.
And 213?
Yes.
You said
And 217.
Excuse me, I couldn't hear everything. 213
and 217.
and 217.
Right. So may I have a motion to adopt
Motion.
excluding 17213 and 17217? Is there a motion? Is there a second?
A second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Kagan?
Yes.
Councilmember Ohm?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Westall?
Yes.
President Hurd?
Yes. Resolution 17213.
Yeah, my only question is, does that cover the whole farm? Is it only, and I only know 72 acres altogether.
I don't know if it covers the whole farm. It's my impression.
By the county agricultural board, they were
Well, I think they purchased quite a bit more, so I was just wondering whether that eventually is going to come up too. Or is that the only money that the county had?
I can't tell you, they just sent it over and requested it.
Okay.
Mike.
77 acres.
Yeah, 77 acres.
My feeling on this is with the amount of property that is now encumbered by the Islands Act within the community, that this only just takes more property off of the possible block for sale and to put it back on tax rolls. And with that type of offset, I can't go along with it.
Well, I'd just like to comment that these farms do pay quite a bit of taxes based on the houses they have. This farm has 2 or 3 houses, I believe.
Yeah, I understand. But it restricts any further
It's on
development.
the house, not on the land.
Well, our farmers are absolutely looking for more property to do their haying and grazing on, so it is at a premium. They really need much more farms. And my feeling is, along with the trail system, that we have to preserve our niche farming as well as our dairy farms and other cattle farms.
Are there any other comments?
I think we're running out of places to tax. We're getting like West Milford, where there are more places that are tax-free than taxable with all the projects and parks, et cetera, the Elks that West Milford has. They lose a lot of tax revenue, and we're losing a lot of tax revenue.
You don't seem to understand this program. they're buying an easement. They still pay taxes, not only on the fields, but also the houses. And
I don't think they pay taxes on the field.
town services that they use is approximately a quarter on the dollar, whereas the houses use approximately $1.25 for their services. So it really is saving a lot of money and a lot of taxes to preserve these farms. But I shouldn't have to defend it.
No, I understand what you're saying, because my niece is farm assessed in Franklin, and my friend is farm assessed in Frankfurt, and what they pay is the tax on the house. I know the fee just went up. I think it's now
Yes, it's gone up from
$600 or
$1,000 to
$550.
$10,000 in terms of product.
Yeah.
When I first ran for office in this town, the fields in this town were described as being vacant and unused. And when I went around and surveyed the amount of product that's produced, I came out without, just anecdotally, $4.5 million a year in product. So to not consider this as part of our commercial infrastructure is really overlooking what we have as a great gem.
Many people are coming out of town to go to this particular farm. He's increased from 20 head to over 80 head. He's expanding into pork, chickens, CSAs. And when he has meetings with these people, there must be 30 or 40 cars coming in there. And he's also looking now to sell to the local restaurants also. So it really is an expanding business.
And take a look at what Heaven Hill does during Apple Fest time in terms of pumpkins and farm rides and all the rest of it. And they must make a fortune over there. People come from all over the East Coast to attend those things.
Can they sell the property to a private developer?
Not if it's in preservation.
That's what I don't like.
Yeah. Now, we have another farm on 565 that's just opened up. I'm sure he'll be here for farm assessment pretty soon, too.
He has farm assessment.
There's a confusion.
Yeah.
Farm assessment is done through the tax assessor. The governing body does not vote on farm assessment. They make the application via state statute directly to the tax assessor. The tax assessor goes out and evaluates the farm, and she makes the difference as far as whether or not somebody pays taxes. This is the farmland preservation program. The property is already farm assessed. This is a different program.
This is a voluntary.
Any farmer can come in who was 5 acres and a building could come in. Any property owner who has 5 acres and a building can come in. And I think they might have just changed it. Dan, you might be more familiar with what it is, if it's more or less than 5 acres in a building. But anyone can come to the tax assessor and get that farm. So this doesn't affect taxes. This is just farmland preservation.
And it's a voluntary program. The farmer volunteers.
The farmers request this. It's not, and they make applications to the state and through the county for this program.
Do you know offhand, Dan, how many farms are preserved in Vernon?
I believe they're, well, I'll be able to make that assessment as soon as I gather all my information, but
I mean, is it under 10?
yes, it's under 10. Yeah. There's only 1 or 2 farms left that would qualify for it.
How much of the township is under the aegis of the,
Heaven Hill is preserved. Jamie Rickey is preserved.
Pochuck Farms?
Who else?
Pochuck Farms?
Pochuck Farms.
Pochuck Farms.
My old farm is preserved. Most of Costa Gerard's farm is preserved. Borderland Farm is preserved both in New York State as well as
Well, they have horses.
New Jersey. I believe Peter Martin's farm should be preserved. That it's not preserved.
Should or is not?
It's not preserved yet.
Is not.
And the old Card Farm is not preserved because it's not
Right, but I'm just
accessed
asking
by
about
roads.
what is, there's like 5 or 6?
Yeah. All that information is available online.
Any other discussion? May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 17-213?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Councilmember Grooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
No.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Berkeley?
Yes. Resolution 17-217. Is there a discussion on this?
Yeah, where are you getting the money to cover the deficit?
We were able to transfer funds from other budgetary line items in order to cover that.
All right, so we made a motion and we adopted moving money out of other line items to cover the deficit for attorney fees.
Correct.
So we had a vote on that.
Yes.
So now we're canceling that, but now we're still moving money in there, so
We
it must
found
be...
money within the current budget in order to cover that emergency appropriation, so we don't need to make a separate emergency appropriation.
So where did it come from?
It came from
Rob Peter to pay
various
for.
line items
Can you be
within the current budget.
Specific? What line items did it come
Excuse
from?
me, are you talking,
17-184.
are you talking about the line item transfers that were approved at the previous meeting?
Yes.
So because of those line item transfers, you no longer need the emergency appropriation?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 17-217?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call? Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Councilmember Grooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Berkeley?
Yes. Let's see. Public hearings, second reading of ordinances. Ordinance 17-17, ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of the Township of Vernon regarding Bureau of Animal Control. Currently, animal control is under the Office of Administration. This ordinance moves the Bureau to be a civilian division of the Police Department to better coordinate services. Chief Mills is not here, but Mr. Volker, do you have any comments on this?
As I said at the introduction last time, that in discussing it with Chief Mills, this is something that is done in many other communities. I even as recently as tonight, I discussed it with Mr. Towns, who has formerly served in East Orange, and it was done in that community. It's currently done in Parsippany, several other towns in the area where it comes under the offices of the Chief of Police. It mostly serves to be more effective and efficient. I mentioned that the last time. Today we had a perfect example of the effectiveness of even planning to move it over, where we finally got a response from the prosecutor's office directed to Chief Mills, because Mr. Towns and Mr. Zielinski had sent numerous letters to the Sussex County Prosecutor's Office and to the judge who signed the consent order with regard to the potentially dangerous dog on violations that we had witnessed, and we didn't know how to proceed, and they did not give us any response over a period of several months. Chief Mills made the inquiry, and he got a response as of today with regard to how we should proceed, which I don't know whether we ever would have gotten had it not been for his inquiry into it. So again, effectiveness in the fact that it's now being quasi-law enforcement. It's a civilian division, as we pointed out, underneath that'll be governed by the police department, who runs with, I think, great efficiency in this community in a lot of different areas. And so I see that. And again, I know the question was asked, if it's not broke, don't fix it. When we're not saying it's broken at all, we're saying that we feel that it would be better served to the community by having it overseen by the Chief of Police.
Thank you. May I have a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 1717?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone that would like to step forward to address this ordinance? Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close the public
Motion.
session? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1717?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Cady?
Yes?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 2-0.
Next, we have items for discussion. Vernon Township's bills on the council meeting agenda. At the last Township Council meeting, we had received a request to add the bills list to the agenda. Would the Township Attorney please speak to this matter?
Sure, Council President. This matter was brought to the attention of our office. Long story short, this resolution would not be appropriate. In 2014, this actual matter was litigated by two plaintiffs against this municipality, and the court essentially held that the council, it wasn't within your purview to approve or disapprove bills paid by the mayor. Moreover, the court held that it's not a requirement to have the bills list on the council agenda. So in light of the past litigation and past legal expenses that have already been expended on this issue, I would not recommend adopting such a measure.
Well, I brought this forward, and I disagree. The judge says that we're not compelled. Well, there's a lot of things that we're not compelled to do, and we do because it's best practice. So I don't believe there's a law that says you cannot. There's many towns, Faulkner Act, that actually vote on the bills separately and vote on payroll separately. I think this is being fiscally responsible. And a perfect example of a bill that should have been questioned was that appraisal bill. That would be something that would be addressed. We don't want to stop paper clips from being ordered. These are these big questionable bills. That bill should have never been paid. We didn't get anything in return. It was like ordering something, the manufacturer recalling it, but they want you to pay for it anyway. So I believe that it would be our responsibility. We're in control of the money, and we need to keep an eye on the bills and to vote on it, just like all the other towns do. So that is my position, and I would like to vote on this. I drafted a resolution. I think it should be up to the council. This should be a council decision whether we should vote on the bills. And that's my statement, and I'd like it to go to vote. I drafted the resolution.
And based on that, I'd just like to make a comment, and I think that ordering the appraisal on that property was totally ridiculous in the first place.
Well,
But go
that's
ahead,
not
if you'd
the
like to
point.
make a motion, do what you'd like.
Just because we did the appraisal and we requested it and then it ended up in this bill,
Well,
it's
you're,
not because we did the appraisal or asked for it.
you're saying
So
because the
don't blame it
man,
on because we
Nobody's
wanted an
blaming any,
appraisal.
nobody
The company
blamed, there
did
was
the
no
work.
blame.
But we didn't get anything in return, did we? He drew it back and you claimed that you didn't have to tell us
I
when it
think,
was done.
I think when you read it, the response, we did get something in return, that the building is not worth the original appraisal, because he
Yeah,
hadn't been
withdrew
inside.
it. So it
Yes,
wasn't a
but why
complete, anyway.
why did it take from April through September to get the actual document, when the document was available?
That's a
That's-
separate issue.
It's not the separate issue.
That's a separate
It's-
issue.
No, it isn't.
This
It's-
is-
It
this-
is not. It is part of the, it is the major part of this issue, because had the council in total.
We're discussing, excuse me, but we're discussing.
You're interrupting me.
No, we're discussing
You're
this item.
interrupting me.
We're discussing
You're
this item.
interrupting me. Had the council had this document in total prior to this whole document, prior to September, we would have been able to discuss this as a council and come to a decision with the mayor as to what to do next.
We had
Now,
lots
as
of
far as I
discussion.
know, we're waiting for a second one.
We had lots of discussion, Pat.
No, we never did, because we never received this.
Then you should have
I don't
gone
know
and
about
visited.
you. I'm sorry?
No, you do know about me, and
No.
you should have gone to discuss it with the mayor.
No, on the contrary.
The
The
fact-
council requested this in public, and I think it should have been handed to us.
Then you should
And
have
yet,
discussed it
excuse
with
me,
the mayor.
Every time we requested it, either the mayor or the business administrator did not give us the document. They came up with a reason why not. Now,
Because
even
it
though
didn't sell
we should
at
have been given-
100,000.
We should have been given this document, warts and all, so that we could have discussed it.
Well, anyway, that would be an example of something that would be questioned, and I think it's our responsibility to question.
But the whole process of paying the bills, as I explained in a previous meeting, requires that the bills be paid within 30 days. And we sometimes don't have meetings. We skip a meeting, that means all the vendors wouldn't get paid. That's a cumbersome process, and we did that in the 90s, and some vendors stopped dealing with us because they didn't get paid on time.
Interesting.
Now the system works. You have every reason to question anything that's on the bills list, and you get the bills list all the time.
Interesting, when Mayor Murata proposed this and we stopped the practice, you objected,
Yes,
okay? But now you're not objecting.
I'm not going to go back and produce a system that seems to be working today.
I trusted Mayor Murata, and that's why I voted for that particular course of action. I agree with Mrs. Ohms that I think the resolution should be passed before the council so that we can vote on it.
So what is your proposal? That before any bill gets paid, we have to approve it? Which means going
No,
into...
on the contrary, because if you were going to do that, we should be approving purchase orders. But I think that...
We already did when we did the budget. I thought we got that done with
If you're going to
Victor
give
Murata.
oversight to the individual line items prior to expenditures, then you need to approve purchase orders. But if you want to discuss a bills list, then I think there should be appropriate time, and it should be required at a council meeting that the bills list be discussed.
Why don't you just send it back to the judge? Spend more money on litigation and have him review it.
Well, I don't think it's necessary. You want to pass out the
That's
resolutions?
necessary
we can-
either.
we can vote
There
on
is
it.
no law that says you cannot do it. All the other towns do it.
So make your motion, go ahead and
I
vote.
motion.
All
that
the
we
other
vote.
towns are not this style of
I do
Faulkner.
have a list of Faulkner towns that do it.
Which ones do it?
Let's see here. Well, local?
Yes, of course.
Well, no, I have no, ones that aren't local either. Berkeley Township does it, Manchester Township does it, Ewing does it, Long Branch does it in this area. And it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't matter if it's Faulkner or not. It's good practice.
But it is the law.
It isn't the law. It says that.
The law is that the mayor is the chief executive.
And we're approving the bills.
So you made a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Excuse me, do you have a motion that we're reading into the record?
Do you want me to read the
Her
resolution?
her motion was to have the bills list put on the council's agenda for a vote.
Believe she has a
No, it's to
resolution.
vote for, yes, not to be put on the agenda. This particular meeting, we're voting to vote this through.
Isn't that what I said?
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Roll
want to
call.
take a vote?
Councilmember Kaden?
No.
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yeah, I think there has to be check and balance, and there is no check and balance right now, so yes.
Council President Murphy?
My vote will be no based on the attorney's advice. Next, we have council comments.
Before we go there, I also introduced another ordinance, or resolution rather. I will pass it out. And the resolution.
All the council members received a copy of that.
Okay, you do have it. So simply, the resolution describes
You
that.
want to discuss that during your council comments, then?
Doesn't matter, does it?
We'll just do it during council comments, so this will be your council comments. This way.
Okay.
You can-
Can I go forward? Okay. So I introduced this resolution that we, for grants, when you apply for grants, that we get the information first before we vote on it. And before it's submitted, we vote on it. I got a letter back from the lawyer saying that would be unlawful to pass a resolution. So I don't know why asking for information before we vote could be unlawful. And following the right process, vote before you submit the grant. I mean, we voted on a grant that was submitted, and then a month later, we're giving permission for the town to send in that grant. So to avoid that from happening again, I introduced this resolution, so I don't understand how that could be unlawful. And I would like to pass this.
Sure. Just to provide greater clarification, Councilwoman Ooms, as our office previously conveyed to you, the proposed resolution is unlawful because it infringes on the administrative powers of the mayor. Also, moreover, in this form of government, you can't set a policy that requires action of the mayor.
So can you explain to me
Yeah,
then?
that doesn't make sense. We need the information to vote on it, so we can't ask the mayor to give us information on something we have to vote on? That doesn't make sense.
You can most definitely get information, but you can't dictate whether the application is submitted or not.
Some of,
but we're
excuse me,
vote
but
on
some,
the
excuse me,
application
some of the
to be
applications, some of the applications require council approval, some do not.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
right, so the ones that require
if it's a
council
state requirement, then obviously you have to comply with the state or other governmental entities' requirements.
And
All
as,
right, so if we have to vote on it, then we should be allowed to vote on it and then it gets submitted. Wouldn't that be the right sequence of order? If you require a vote to submit a grant from the council, then it should be done that way.
right. And if you had,
vote and then you submit. You don't submit and then you vote. So I don't know how that could be unlawful.
I just have this information, just for your informational purposes. Sometimes grants are released, and I know from getting it from the agenda, the grants are released, and they actually give a window after the application date, because they realize that 565 municipalities have meetings at different times, and they want every opportunity for each town to make an application and not miss the deadline because we just don't have a council meeting at that time. And that's why applications sometimes are made prior to the approval of the council, and the state actually sets those programs up, allowing for a 30-day window, sometimes a 2-week window, depending on the grant, 21 days, for the resolution to be passed after the application date, simply because the windows for the grants are very short, and they realize that 565 municipalities don't have meetings all at the same time.
and this is just an application. This is not, this is, right, but it's just an application. So what happens is, and when we do get our agenda packets, as Mr. Volkers pointed out, and he's even sent a memo, any one of the council members can go ask for information instead of waiting for the council meeting to get that information. So we're putting off voting on things.
Well, the public should have the information as well at a
The
council
public
meeting.
can, and you can certainly reiterate it right at the public meeting once you have it. And that's what I did, because I was called out on that by Brian Lynch saying, you already have the answer, and I said, yes, but it would be good if the public did. But that doesn't preclude you from getting the information prior to the meeting, which is why we get our council packets on Wednesday or Thursday.
I'd like to ask the attorney, isn't that a period of deliberation?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, the deliberative privilege would definitely apply.
So when we say here, we now give permission, then the wording in the resolutions need to be changed that they were submitted already and we are memorializing it or something. Because what if you submitted that grant and we voted it no, would you withdraw it then? How do we know that it would be withdrawn if it didn't pass?
Well, what happens?
Already been
Automatically
submitted.
withdrawn by the state of New Jersey when you didn't submit the resolution of the court. The state would disqualify your application.
Suppose you found out information that was not available or that was incorrect when the initial vote was taken.
You don't have to accept it. The town's done that plenty of times and wasted, squandered away grants.
No, the point that I'm making is that council is told one thing and we vote to confirm the application, and following the application's confirmation by the council, approval by the council, you found out that some of the information is incorrect. What do you do then?
You don't accept the grant. Then you have to vote to accept the Chapter 159, those resolutions that we pass. Those are for accepting the money into the budget. So if you don't agree, or you find the match is too high, or there was misinformation at the time of the acceptance of the grant, if we were actually awarded it, because that's never a guarantee, then you have an opportunity to vote at the time of acceptance. And some grants you'll see, like the one this evening, there's no vote on the application. It's only a vote to accept the money or not. It depends on the government entity or group that's providing the grant. Each one has their own set of specific rules and their own set of specific policies as to how you have to make your application, what you have to include, what you don't have to include, when you have timeframes, when the windows are available. So that it's very fact-specific based on each. But you have to accept money. That's, if it's not in your budget at the beginning of the year, you have to vote to accept it.
Yeah, I still feel that we should be presented with it and vote on it, and then you submit it. That's, to me, to have the grant done in time for us to be allowed to follow the
But
right process.
the timeframes don't always work that way when the grants are presented. When the grants are released, it doesn't always allow all the municipalities to have that luxury to be able to vote on it ahead of time. But it's still only an application. It's not an acceptance of the grant.
I understand that.
So it's like you're attempting to tie everybody's hands.
I'm not
by-
tying anybody's hands.
You are. It's micromanaging.
Micromanaging.
It is.
We want the information when we vote on it. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
That's,
Having
but,
information when
but
you
you're
vote on
talking
it?
about voting on something that's not necessary. The whole idea is what we're talking, you want to vote on every single grant application that's submitted.
We had
When it has money, right, when it has money.
Right, but what's
If
happening
it
is
doesn't have money, I don't want to vote. It doesn't matter to me. But when we're concerned about the
hopefully
money.
they're all about money. But the whole
Or
thing is,
matching.
but once the grant, if we are awarded a grant, we have to vote to accept it.
We already have a system that works. When we have a grant application that doesn't have enough information, we table it. And we did that with a GAC grant until the grant application came in its entirety.
Yeah, maybe we wouldn't have had to
So we
do
already
that
have a
if we had
process.
all the information.
And like I said, when you would like information, you can certainly go see the business administrator and ask him for it. That's why we get the agenda when we do. We get it in plenty of time to have questions asked.
Excuse me, I'm looking at 17-192. This is a grant that we approved the last meeting, our previous meeting. And it states, second paragraph, be it further resolved that the mayor and municipal clerk are hereby authorized to submit an electronic grant, so forth. Now, the word authorized implies the fact that it needs council approval. And if you need council approval, and your meeting sequence falls outside of the bounds of what is required, we've done it before, we can do it again. It's called, we have an emergency meeting.
That's why the state gives you a 30-day window after the close of the grant application on those type resolutions.
So then why was this submitted prior to the meeting? When you had the 30-day window?
The application process day ended, so not the grant was 30 days prior. The opportunity to submit the resolution was 30 days after the application deadline. So they don't always, when they give you a grant opportunity, they open the window, let's say December 1st. Our next meeting's not till December 15th, but they close the window on December 14th. Do you want the township would miss the opportunity to get the money if we don't submit by the 14th. But because the application time is so truncated, they give you until January 14th to submit the resolution, recognizing that in that 30-day period, you should have had a meeting at that point. If you don't have the meeting and you don't submit the resolution, they disqualify your application. But if you do it, you have the time. And that's why they have that time period. So I didn't make those applications. They were made for that resolution, but it did have a window to allow us, after the application was made, for us to have a meeting to have it done. And the deadline, I think Corey said, was like correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't like 5 or 6 days prior to our meeting was the deadline, last possible drop?
Right, and then DOT said since we missed it, we tabled it, they gave us another 2 weeks to do it.
And Corey had a call and asked them to do that.
Called our
Down to DOT for that.
representative, and they said fine.
Yeah, but if this is all done prior to the opening of the grant, you know you're submitting it. Why can't we get it before that and then submit it?
New grants come every single day, and they are not the same every year. The requirements are not the same every year, and it's not, like, they have a time frame of like around this time, and the people who do the grants look on the pages every day to see, oh, did anything new come up that we could qualify for? Is there something where we have the opportunity to get money? You know, some of the grants don't have these long lead times, and they're new. They have to do the research on it, see if we can make a project work within the balance to make it work. And by the time they get all that cleared, the meeting's already happened, or the meeting's in progress, or we also have to give notice for our meetings. So if we find out in advance, we don't have enough time.
But tabling it because we don't have the information is not the right way to go either, right?
And you
Because
could
that
have,
just prolongs, you're saying you only have a month to hand in the resolution.
Not always a month, depends.
So
on the
now
time.
if we keep on tabling it, then
Then
they'll order.
we don't get to make the application.
but when you get the agenda, if you have a question on the grant, you go and you ask before the meeting, rather than sitting here and now asking, and if the information's not here. What did it cost for us to have to bring Corey
Well, I
Stoner in?
simply asked-
$125 an hour for
Yes.
Corey to come in and explain the grant. All that information could have been had ahead of the meeting, ahead of
No one
time.
even knew, the people sitting there didn't even know there was matching.
But
Something
what-
as important
You're
as
right.
that. They
They
didn't
did
know
say
that.
they didn't
No,
know, but
they
you
didn't
had the
know.
agenda. You had the agenda prior to the meeting, and you should have asked. You have the
Well, they
agenda, you
should've-
reviewed it.
At that day, I would have known that if there was a $15,000
You have the
matching.
agenda, and you have time to read it. That's right, come on.
I did read it.
You didn't, but you didn't ask any questions till you showed up at the meeting.
Yes, and if they would have said there was a 15,000,
But
and
they
I
didn't
had
write
the
the
answer,
grant.
maybe it would have
But they
proceeded.
didn't, they weren't in charge of that grant. But they could have gotten that information from Corey Stoner rather than
I
having
just
to bring him
assumed
out.
They would
Well,
have known. They were, the
then that-
GAC was working on it, and they're a member of the GAC.
But you were asking Elka and Chuck, they didn't have that information that day. They didn't have the information whether or not it was a matching grant. So if you had asked Thursday, Friday, or even Monday prior to the meeting, they could have made a phone call or gotten that information. I don't believe the mayor was here that day. That's all. And that's why you get the agenda, that's why there's a period of time for review. That was something that I actually tried to get. When I first got on the council, we were getting the agenda at 4:30 on a Friday. There was no time to react. That's since changed. It changed right away. But you can't hold them responsible for when you show up at a meeting and you're not asking them questions ahead of time. You have time. Do you have any other
I just
comments?
thought a matching somebody would know the answer to
Well,
that.
but there's several different grants. It's
Well,
not
but they're
just,
coming and representing themselves at the council, but that's not even the issue, so why even put anybody on the spot? But
you have
that should have been, or you had Corey come, somebody that knows about the grant.
right, but we pay
Tell
Corey
us and tell.
$125 an
Maybe
hour.
somebody from the GAC or whoever worked on it, and the employee.
Please, don't talk to me about hourly rates of $125 an hour when we've blown.
I'm not talking to you about it, I'm talking
When
to
we've blown
Councilman.
much more,
$40,000
Now-
$30,000, $40,000.
Yes, on some of the lawsuits that are
No,
unnecessary.
not the lawsuits, on the schemes that have been.
Schemes,
Yes,
oh.
Yeah, purchasing
Okay,
schemes.
Save this for your comments, please. You have any other comments?
No.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
No.
Councilmember Wetzel?
No
No
comment.
comment? Yeah, any comments? Well, I would once again like to mention the REITs Across America. On the website, as of today, they are up to 114 REITs out of the 200 of their goal. If you do go on and purchase a REIT, just make sure you put it under the correct fundraiser for the cemetery, because just if you go on, you click the for that cemetery, it doesn't necessarily reflect on the fundraiser. I'm not sure when the cutoff is for it, but I believe the REITs Across America, I think it's on December 16th. Okay, that's one item. The other one is, I'd like to mention that I see Danny Gross from the McAfee Fire Department is here, and Mayor Shortway originally mentioned that McAfee Fire Department did help the beautification committee, or actually, I should say that they were the ones that put up the snowflakes. 8 of them went up. We were able to purchase 9 this year, so we have 1 more to put up, but we're going to try to get somebody with a bucket truck. It was very cold that day, at least for me, but we're grateful that they were able to do that. The next year, hopefully, we'll have some money in the budget so we can purchase more. The canisters, we actually have there's canisters on the telephone poles, which makes it, which is the reason we're able to actually have them lit, because if we have to go and install any additional canisters, I think they're over $400 per canister that draws the electricity. We do pay a electric charge per pole per day, so I did show Mayor Shortway that memo today just to let him know, because we had one from 2009 when they were first installed. So again, thank you. Thank you, McAfee Fire Department. And other than that, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.